Gillespie with Rancid and Sweaty Calves coming at you with yet another video. And in this one I'll be covering something that I couldn't help but laugh at when I first saw it on the Bounty Into Comics Instagram page. Made me laugh out loud. I'm not even joking. I was I was in a porta potty and I just looked at this headline and I went, "Oh my gosh, this is so stupid." You'd think that people would be smarter than this, but apparently they're not. So let's go ahead and get into this, shall we? She-Hulk director Kat Corio blames criticism of Marvel's series CGI on our culture's belief in its ownership of women's bodies. First of all, no. The main criticism is the fact that it looks like garbage and that Marvel has been overworking and underpaying their CGI artists to the point where now this is considered top of the line, even though it's absolutely terrible. It looks like garbage. Okay. In what very well may go down as one of the most baffling defenses of a Marvel product in all of history, SheHulk Attorney at Law director Kat Corio has asserted that the widespread criticism of Disney Plus's series CGI had nothing to do with its quality, but rather our culture's belief in its ownership of women's bodies. Any way you can virtue signal, am I right? Corio shared her opinion on the backlash to Jennifer Walters' Uncanny Valley-esque looks during an appearance at the series' August 3rd Television Critics Association press tour panel. There, the director asserted, "In terms of the CGI being critiqued, I think that it has to do with our culture's belief in its ownership of women's bodies." And the confused face of that terribly CGI-crafted She-Hulk is exactly what everyone thought when they read that article headline. "I think a lot of critique comes from the feeling like they're able to tear apart the CGI woman," said Corio. There's a lot of talk about her body type, and we based it on an Olympian athletes, not bodybuilders." You know, that's fine. That's fine. You're not supposed to base her on a bodybuilder. You're supposed to base her on what she is in the comics. You could find a fit girl who is, can act out the part of a She-Hulk, and it would be fine. You don't have to CGI this character, but they decided to go down the CGI route, and it looks terrible. But I think if we had gone the other way, we would be facing the same critique, she concluded. "I think it's very hard to win when you make women's bodies." No, it's just don't make the CGI look like garbage, or give the CGI artists more time to make a fully CG character look good. No one's critiquing the body type of this character. They're critiquing the quality of the CG. She-Hulk star Tatiana Maslany would later echo this rhetoric while speaking as to what she enjoyed about playing the series' title role. The series follows Jen as she navigates the complicated life of a single 30-something attorney who also happens to be a green 6'7" superpowered Hulk, explained the actress to the media attendants. Jen has had her life planned out for her and was worked very hard to get where she is as a lawyer. And to have this thing happen to her, that sort of derails everything, she continued. It's a bit of an identity crisis. How do you think someone like Bruce Banner feels when he's just a scientist trying to do something universal and help people, in later years to come, and he winds up becoming like a #1 most wanted list in terms of the United States government? He's a monster. He was seen as a monster by the eyes of the people for a long time. She practically is going to get praised because she's an attractive 6-foot-tall female character. At least in the comics, that's what happens. She gets a lot of confidence. She's kind of jiving with it. Whereas Hulk, it's like, oh, it's a whole identity crisis. With this, it's, never mind. I'm not even going to bring the comics and continuity into this garbage because they don't care for that. Stupid pop-up ad. Okay. There's a lot to having to affirm her intelligence when she's Jen and assert her role in trying to get respect. Whereas when she's She-Hulk, there's this inherent sort of awe inspired by her that's at odds with how she wants to be perceived, she elaborated. Her anger, her largeness, her taking up space in a room is all a fertile ground for us to play with. Flip the standard on its head so you can laugh at it. No one wants to laugh at this. You've already made Hulk a joke. We're so fixated on women's bodies, whether it's aesthetically or politically, or in terms of rights or in terms of autonomy. I think what we do in this show is touch with all of these concepts, she concluded, and they're going to touch on them in an extremely left-leaning narrative stance. Notably, Corio's statements in particular came the same day Entertainment Weekly published an interview with the director, wherein she revealed the series' production. It was definitely something we talked about, about inclusivity. I didn't know this a second about there, and making sure that the story was told through the female lens. Comic books have traditionally, in the art, been through the male gaze, and so there was a lot of talk about what is the female gaze and how do we create this from our point of view. So already right there you can tell that she's going, the showrunner, the producers, the actresses, they're all gonna do this. They're just gonna push some political narrative, and they're gonna use She-Hulk as a vehicle to do that. And they're gonna emasculate someone like Hulk, which they've already done, but they're gonna have him do stupid things like yoga. Hulk doing yoga. That should never be a word that anyone says. That should never be those words, Hulk and yoga, should not go in the same sentence, except to say that it should not go in the same sentence. One thing I always come back to was one of the wish fulfillment elements of getting to see her walk down a dark alley, and someone gives her a hard time, and she's able to kick their butts. The director detailed it was something that every single woman could relate to, any woman of any age. Yeah, any guy who's been in a dark alley and he doesn't know what the heck is going to happen. Any guy could be afraid of being in a dark alley. More so a guy, because especially if the guy has ticked somebody off. Because guys can actually get hurt by other guys. Women are not allowed to be hurt by guys. And oftentimes these leftist liberal lunatics get freaked out by men who won't do anything to them and actually wouldn't even touch them with a 10-foot pole. How exciting would it be to walk home in the dark and not worry, she added. She-Hulk is able to walk home even while wearing headphones and not worry because she has the power to not feel vulnerable physically, and I think that's a pretty unique thing that only a group of women could have brought to this, among other much more nuanced things as well. There's a really, really good part in the Dark Knight Returns comics where Bruce Wayne is pretty much ambushed by a couple of young thugs. He clenches his fists and he gets ready to fight, and he's like, come on, let's do this, come on! And they don't, because he's like, oh, it's no fun, because Sly is into it, and whatever the heck the wording was. But he was freaking out. After that, he took a really deep breath. His heart was racing. He was like, he was worried. That was a really great scene in that comic too. I mean, geez Louise. Putting forth one such example of basically what I'm saying is that it's not exclusively a woman thing to be worried about walking home at night. It's not exclusively a female thing to not like being out in the dark alone, okay? It's not exclusively female. Putting forth one example of such nuanced things, Corio recalled, we talked a lot about women feeling the need to be polite. If some guy comes up to you in a bar, it's obvious what he wants, but you don't want to offend him because you're afraid of being rude. How about you just say no? Just say no and the guy will go away, okay? You say no from the start, the guy's probably going to go away. The majority of dudes do, alright? And if he doesn't, you got a bunch of other dudes in that bar who would stick up for you, alright? Jennifer Walters has this new part of herself that doesn't have to temper that she doesn't, what is this saying? Jennifer Walters has this new part of herself that doesn't have to temper that and doesn't have to put up with things she doesn't want to put up with, the director said. Jennifer Walters doesn't have to put up with that crap. Oh my gosh. Everything in here is just spews of leftist craziness. Okay, so last thing on this is that SheHulk Attorney at Law is set to hit Disney Plus August 18th. Basically, this entire article is detailing the fact that the showrunner is completely misinformed when it comes to male and female experiences and thinks that women are the only people in the world who can feel vulnerable, even though the majority of violent crimes happen to men. The majority of violent crimes, deaths, suicides, so on and so forth, murders happen to men. Statistically speaking. So men should be far more worried of women. And women can derail in a man's entire career, his entire life, just by accusing him of, a little bit of grape. I'm using the word grape because YouTube doesn't like the other word. I don't like the other word. I don't like saying the other word. It's a disgusting thing. It's evil. But a woman can literally accuse a man of doing anything in this modern day, and she can get away with it, and he can be convicted of that crime, even if there's no evidence. That's happened before. And even if it's proven wrong, people will still perceive that guy as if he actually did it, even though it was proven wrong, even though it was proven that he was innocent. Basically, what I'm saying is this. This entire show is going to focus exclusively on feminist propaganda and try to make it seem like it's something that it's not. It's going to try and inject feminist, leftist politics into this story and make it seem like only women have these shared experiences of being worried or being frightened when they're walking home at night. And I've been out in places where I really don't like the vibe. I really don't like what's going on in the area. And I'm looking over my shoulder every single step of the way, okay? Everyone should, because there are jerks, rude people, evil people, criminals, scumbags who would do anything to get what they want. Okay, everyone should be walking with their head on a swivel all the time. If you did more often, more people would be safe from criminal activity. If people were more vigilant and took into heart their safety a little bit more, instead of went out and had drunken parties, smoking crack off of each other's breasts or whatever the heck it is that people do nowadays, people would be far safer if they just used a little bit of brain power and a little bit of cognitive awareness wherever they went, instead of getting themselves drunk and high off their mind. Instead of just walking around doing whatever the heck it is they want to do. People had some level of morality. If people had some level of discernment in regards to what it is that they put in their bodies and where they go at what hours of the day, people would be a lot safer. If every woman out there carried a gun, I guarantee you there'd be more headlines saying, "Woman stops rapist. Woman stops sexual molester from harming her." I would love to see some of those stories come out. I would love to see a headline that reads, "Women shoots and kills would-be pedophilic rapist." Okay? I would love to see that, because that would mean then that woman defended herself. But instead we see way too many headlines of people actually being hurt because there's this weird stigma around a woman carrying a gun. It's so stupid. Basically, gosh, this show is going to suck. Everything about this is talking about how oppressed women are when it's not the case. That's not the case. It's ridiculous. I can't wait for this show to flop. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below your thoughts. Let me know, what you think the show is going to be, if you think it has any potential at all, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. I'm always open to a friendly conversation. And, yeah, I hope you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon so you'll be alerted to every single video that I upload. I also leave my Patreon and my Rumble links in the description below, so if you guys would check that out, that would be really grateful. I would be really grateful, and I hope you guys have a great day and a great rest of the week.